James Gunn's Superman has me feeling optimistic this time around, unlike 2013's Man of Steel, directed by Zack Snyder, and I want to point out something that should help explain why. Now, I am well aware of the ongoing internet war between James Gunn fans and Zack Snyder fans. Ironically, these two filmmakers collaborated early on in their careers in 2004, with the Dawn of the Dead remake written by James Gunn and directed by Zack Snyder. Coincidentally, they are the current and previous creative directors of DC Films, now known as DC Studios. And they both, understandably, decided to kick off these massive motion picture franchises with Superman movies. Zack Snyder made something of a Superman trilogy in the 2010s with Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League. We'll be talking about a choice he made in those films and comparing it to a similar choice James Gunn made in his superhero trilogy, Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 through 3, so spoilers for both of those film series.
Spoiler alert.
Scoot, scoot. At the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the final shot is of Rocket Raccoon watching the fireworks at Yondu's funeral. The prior films hinted at there being more to the Rocket Raccoon character, and I could safely assume that the third film would focus on Rocket Raccoon, because that's what that final shot was trying to communicate to me. So when the third installment of Guardians of the Galaxy comes out, and it is about Rocket, it is obvious to anyone who's been paying attention that they're just paying off what has already been set up. Set up, payoff, it's as simple as that. At the end of Batman vs. Superman, Superman is seemingly dead. After having lost his fight with Doomsday, he's been given a funeral and laid to rest. But then, in the very last shot, we see dust particles floating over Superman's coffin, the same way the snowflakes floated around his fist when he was about to take off in the first film. It's also worth noting that Superman was killed by Doomsday when this happened in the comic. It turned out he was still alive and he'd just been beaten so badly it looked like he was dead. In both versions of the Justice League movie, it doesn't matter which cut you watch, it turns out that Superman is actually very much dead. He needs to be revived with a mother box, which might as well be magic. It's a deus ex machina. As for the dust floating over Superman's coffin, no explanation is given. The final shot of Batman vs. Superman, the image we were left to ponder until the next installment, was meaningless. No payoff. Not to mention, again, in the source material, Superman wears the black suit because it's like a big solar panel that helps him absorb the sun's rays and get back to full strength. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, he's just wearing a black suit because black suits are cool. No explanation given. The last Zack Snyder movie I watched, Army of the Dead, was also guilty of this. There's this dude named Vanderhorn with a big circular saw with a lion on the side of it or something. He yells at a dude for trying to touch it like nobody touches my saw but me. And then he never uses it against the zombies at any point in the entire movie. It's all set up and no payoff. J.J. Abrams does this too. It drives me insane. You make a blatantly obvious setup for something, and then you abandon it without paying it off.
Ray, I never told you Rick.
Mystery is more important than knowledge.
For me, this is inexcusable. James Gunn has yet to do me like this. I was watching James Gunn's Suicide Squad sequel, and I noticed the movie opened with a reflection in a puddle. And later it uses the reflection of Peacemaker's helmet in the third act fight between him and Rick Flag. So then I'm thinking, okay, rule of threes, not twos, and it's not a bookend unless it happens at the very end, so there are probably 3 significant reflections in this movie, and I've only caught 2 of them. So I watched the movie back, and in the second act, sure enough, Ratcatcher's story about her father is told in the reflection of a bus window. I was rewarded for paying attention. He introduced this device at the very beginning of the movie, gives it to you 2 more times. It's like you can set your watch to it. For me to just assume he'd done that 3 times and not be disappointed when I went back to make sure, stuff like that is incredibly satisfying for a person like me. And stuff like that Saw thing from Army of the Dead, makes me want to pull my hair out. So, cards on the table, I enjoy the films of James Gunn more than those of Zack Snyder, but that doesn't mean I hate Zack Snyder. If anything, he's grown on me over the years. That bit in Justice League where Aquaman throws his sweater at the singing Scandinavian women and the one catches it and sniffs it and starts singing even louder, I kinda love that. It was an insane swing for the fences and it was ridiculous, but in a way that felt risky and courageous to me. But he only ever gets me in moments. I've never been with him to the end credits. I think even if you aren't personally able to acknowledge this stuff, you still notice this stuff. Even if you may not be able to articulate it, you know when something feels off as an audience member. And I think goodwill from Guardians of the Galaxy and badwill from Justice League is part of why people are already responding so positively to this new Superman. This is not about what I think of either of them as people. I do not know them as people. There are a lot of arguments to hear in this debate online. Some I agree with, some I do not. I'm not here to repeat Martha or Jara P for the millionth time. I'm here to talk about something that doesn't get brought up, because that is what I bring to the table. I do think this setup and payoff thing is hard to argue against, but if you're a Snyder fan or any kind of fan who disagrees with what I'm saying, feel free to share your thoughts in the form of a comment. This Superman looks very neat to me. I am enthusiastically pro Superdog. This almost feels like it's flipping The Boys back the way The Boys originally flipped Superman. Like it's doing The Boys without the cynicism. They're superheroes and corporate interests, but what if the most powerful character wasn't a megalomaniac? I've kind of had this one loaded for a while. I felt the need to explain why James Gunn gets the benefit of the doubt and Zack Snyder does not. If you like Zack Snyder, more power to you. They're just movies, so like what you like. Don't let me stop you. This isn't meant to discourage you from liking something. An attack on something you like is not an attack on you. Trust me, I do not want the Zack attack crowd, even though I know I'm kind of courting their fury right now. I just couldn't help myself. Even though I prefer James Gunn, there is stuff I'm not sure about. I don't love reusing the John Williams score. I'd be more interested in an original theme for a new Superman. I'm confused about James Gunn keeping all the Peacemaker characters, even though, spoilers again, skirt, they all met the old 2017 Justice League cast at the end of that show, and Viola Davis's Amanda Waller was basically the Nick Fury of those movies. She's in a bunch of them. How is he just gonna explain that? The Flash? Also, let's be honest, this Green Lantern hair on a 53-year-old man in 2025 is ridiculous. He doesn't even have this hair in the comics anymore, because it's dumb. And the wig isn't even that accurate. Guy's bowl cut has the side shaved off. This thing is layered. It reminds me of Emo Dad. I know I'm dating myself with that one, but come on, you see it. I hate it. But the thing is, I'm probably supposed to hate it. James Gunn hasn't let me down yet, and I can genuinely feel his love for this stuff radiating off of these images. The little things I'm not so sure about are vastly overshadowed by my feeling that this movie is going to embrace the things I love about superhero comics, including the absurdity of them. Up until this point, most of these superhero franchises have prioritized realism and trying to make these god people fit into our ordinary world, but this new Superman feels like an opportunity to give us the heightened reality that most of these characters usually operate within. One of the movies on the DC film slate is a horror movie about Clayface, a character from the gothic horror side of Batman that is essential to the comic books and all but absent from the recent films. But now, for this new movie, I would put money on them recreating Clayface in the control room from Batman the Animated Series. It's one of the greatest moments in the history of Western animation, and they're probably gonna try and make it look real, or else why even make this movie? So, as much as a lot of the recent supervillain-centered movies have sucked, I welcome this. Maybe it's just the idea of starting something new after over a decade of Marvel offering diminishing returns and the old DC never managing to coalesce into anything. But I'm ready for a new approach, and James Gunn is really good at making things fit together, so I'm excited. Also, I'm a big Grant Morrison fan, and All-Star Superman heavily inspired this movie, so I'm sold. My deepest desire is for Gunn to adapt Pax Americana, Grant Morrison's mini adaptation of Watchmen involving Peacemaker, Blue Beetle, and the other Charlton Comics characters that the Watchmen were originally based on. That would make yet another wild parallel between Snyder and Gunn. It'd also be cool to see a Challengers of the Unknown TV show. What do you want to see from this new DC Studios? Alright guys, sorry I've been away. Life was not cooperating with me for a minute, but I am back and I'm able to do this again. Gotta thank Ole and friends for having me on. Gotta thank FD for hooking me up. Thanks to my patrons, thanks to my followers. The support has been unbelievable, truly. I'd like to thank $10 patrons Bramblefish, Christopher Kolish, Dean Accardi, Sunshine, Muchu Media, Lauren, Mike B, Leah, Bill, Turn to Pagex, Michael, Alani, Mocha Medics, and Francisco Rose. Big news soon. Can't wait to share it with you. More videos on the way. My head is nearly above water, I think. Sometimes you just gotta have some fun and write about things you enjoy. The holidays seems like an appropriate time to do that. I hope you're enjoying your holiday time as well. I am done with this video now, and I think I may have earned a snack. The winter time is an excellent snacking season. Okay, goodbye.
I want you to bring me the cash. I said I want you to bring me the cash. I want you to bring me the cash. 1 time, 2 times for that ass. I want you to bring me the cash. I said I want you to bring me the cash. I said I want you to bring me